A funny story that we have is when we were starting, we did one of the predictions was about pink pants, and we all wore pink pants, and people were like, why are you wearing pink pants? You know, it was a very strange thing. But then, of course, Barbie exploded, and then we had so many people messaging us after being like, okay, you knew the pink pants. Can we start using your platform? Like, what else do you have on there? A person cannot watch thousands of TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram videos and posts. It can watch and like process thousands of videos in fraction of the time that a person could. We knew like clothing and apparel is impacted by trends, but also now food is heavily impacted by trends and like the consumer mindset. Think about like plant-based. You can see specific terms like veganism or veganic, which is like vegan, organic. The consumer demand in food and beverage is impacted by trends and by these conversations that are happening across social media.
Hello there, my name is Moshe Mikanovsky and I'm your host on the Beyond Product podcast. Welcome. Today on the show, we're going to explore a common way that products and startups emerge, and that is shifting from providing a service to providing a product. In other words, build it once to solve a problem for multiple customers. To learn about this interesting move, I'm happy to have Tali Remennik, CEO and founder of Granularity. Tali is a seasoned professional at the intersection of artificial intelligence and forecasting. Formerly a management consultant at Accenture, she played a pivotal role in crafting and deploying data science use cases for retailers across North America. This experience, helping one client at a time, helped Tali to chart a vision in the world of trends forecasting, from which Granularity was born. Granularity uses the power of AI to predict emerging trends and empower retailers to stay ahead of viral trends based on data processing from social media and search platform. Welcome to the podcast, Tali.
Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. I'm really happy to have you. It's an opportunity for us to talk about yourself, talk about Granularity. So I'm really excited about this. And like I mentioned in the introduction, the thing that I was excited about is your story that I learned from you when I met you, how you moved from creating one solution for one client at a time and then moving it into a product, which is quite common. Maybe not a lot of people are talking about it, but I've seen it before. But before we start diving into that, let's first talk about you. Tell us a bit about yourself and how did you get to where you are?
So as you mentioned in the intro, my name is Tali Remennik. I am a data scientist and CEO at Granularity. My background was as a data scientist at Accenture, and essentially I was building and deploying data science use cases for retailers across North America. And what that means is we were tasked with different types of problems, and then we had to build AI solutions for those problems. Now, at one point, a lot of the asks were very similar, and I think people in retail can relate. Essentially, demand forecasting was becoming a huge challenge because consumers were moving from one product to another very quickly and much faster than it was historically. So, for example, something as massive as toilet paper, which we all remember when everyone all of a sudden was needed to get toilet paper, retailers were just not able to keep up with these crazy demand spurs. And this was happening. That's a macro example, but this was also happening in micro examples. And it continues to happen every day. My background was on actually building solutions for each of those problems. I also worked on, if anyone has the McDonald's or Tim Hortons app, I worked on the models that actually match customers to promotional offers that you get every week. So I worked on a whole bunch of problems, but what that meant is I really started to understand the data sets that retailers have to work with, the complexities within those, but also the opportunities that can be found in them.
Nice. Yeah, I definitely remember that toilet issue. and I think this is a great example that all of us can relate to. What we don't know is that companies do use this type of analysis and data analysis and try to find trends so they will be ahead of things. So that's a really interesting area to explore. And can you give us an example of how you were working one client at a time and then how the bulb kind of turn on to say, oh, maybe we can do it as a product rather than a service?
So every individual client would come and say, hey, we need to forecast new products, for example. We really struggle with that. Then the next client would come and say, hey, we need to forecast this. 30% of our products are really challenging to forecast. We need to forecast those. But it was all happening within like 2 or 3 months. And it was very different types of organizations as well. So I did work on those, but the challenge then became, hey, like when we're looking at only our internal data, that's already a lagging indicator. We need more leading indicators that will tell us before the demand already spikes. Once the demand already spikes, we can't do anything about this. So then when we started looking at leading indicators, that started to get into social media and searches and a whole bunch of other indicators. Now, the challenge with that is that data set is very different than an internal data set. And so that's where it became like, we can't master everything. So that's when I realized it has to be a different product, and it has to be a team that can be experts in external data sets, because those data sets are very different. So I knew that I and whoever else I could bring onto my team had to become experts at the other side of it, which is the external data set piece. And that's what we did. We brought together an amazing team of data engineers, because a lot of that is like APIs and pipelining. And we brought together this team that's really experts in the leading indicators of demand.
I'm always talking about leading and lagging indicators when we talk about products. So this is really an interesting point for me. I'm not a marketer, so I don't have that mindset of thinking about the market and how I forecast things. So, but the parallels there with when we build a product is to understand what will be a leading indicators that people will continue using that. It's really interesting for me to hear that marketing aspects there. So that's very cool. So my understanding is that you are collecting this data from different social media. So are you really on all of them? Are you integrated with all the different social medias out there, or the main ones?
Good question. Yeah. So we have YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Google searches, Bing, and Amazon. So it is the main ones. TikTok is often like the most leading indicator, and then close behind is YouTube and searches. So we do have all the main social media platforms.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure you're also following the talks in the US about legislation over there with TikTok and what's going to happen there and how it might impact retailers. That will be interesting to see. But that's for the future.
And I think it's exciting to see. And what we've learned is that it's probably there's always going to be that space. So we've already started working on a Threads integration and integrations with other APIs to make sure that we're, collecting data from a wide range of sources.
Yeah, absolutely. Whatever will happen with TikTok in the future in North America or overall in the world, there is always going to be space probably for others, because there will be a vacuum there for others to join in. That's the trend you have to watch, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, we don't care what the source actually is, which one. We just care which ones are the most used and which ones are the leading indicators. As we discussed, it doesn't matter particularly which platform it is.
Right. So who would be your clients? Like, we talked about moving from a service to a product. Even there, it's very hard to resolve a problem to everyone. So you probably have to niche to a specific client. So who are they?
We right now are working with grocery retailers. So, for example, marketing teams at grocery organizations. So let me talk through an example. So a marketer at a grocery store right now, what they have to do is they're scrolling on all these social media platforms to try to keep up with all the food trends. Or even just general consumer trends impacting their domain. And then they have to go and turn around all of that information into campaigns. Now, the reason that's challenging is because all these algorithms are skewed towards what they've already been seeing, and it also takes hours to look at all this. So what we've done is we collect all of that data for them across a multitude of categories, and then they have a starting point for all of their research, because our AI algorithms tell them, these are 3 trends that are critical for your domain. And then they can go and take those trends and create campaigns around them. But we have the actual data that not only tells them what's trending now, but what's predicted to be trending. So for example, one of the ones we're working on with retailer is kids foods and like what are children focusing on. And this grocer is really focused on their services. So like their grab and go and things like that. So what we've talked to them, one of the trends that AI predicted was baby-led weaning. So what that is kids using finger foods instead of the traditional feeding. So now they're focusing some campaigns around finger foods and using the key term of baby-led weaning, and they've seen already 2 times more engagement than their typical posts because they're using the exact key terms that are trending.
I see. Interesting. So one of the things I'm always interested with AI is the reason to use AI in a specific product. I usually see kind of 2 trends, especially, post ChatGPT, helping you to do things that a person could do. So generating text or generating images, whatever it is. And the other one is doing things that a human probably cannot do because it's so complex, and maybe only with AI we can find trends. I've seen that in healthcare. I've seen that in other places where without AI, we could not have done what the AI is doing. Where does this fall, your solution at Granularity? Could a person have done it? Or is it something that really only with the help of AI, we are able to come to this new technology?
That's a great question. I would say it's really halfway between those 2 points. So a person cannot watch thousands of TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram videos and posts. So the cool thing is that it can watch and like process thousands of videos in a fraction of the time that a person could. And it can also therefore see signals that we can't process because we would only see 1 or 2 videos, whereas it's seeing thousands. Now, where I will say what is cool is you will see trends in our platform that maybe you've already seen some inklings of them, but now you actually have the data behind it to say, okay, that's a real trend versus I just saw it once. But we always say it's not, predicting the future out of thin air. It's finding things that are already starting to grow that have already that like seed. And it's just seeing, hey, this is like growing very quickly. So that's what's cool is it's not, I don't like when people say it's, it's magic or it's a black box. What it's really doing is just seeing signals that maybe you've seen one signal, but now it's seeing like thousands of the same signal. And the reason that's really exciting is also because if you're working on a cross-functional team, which everyone, especially in grocery, is, so you're working with your merchandising team, you're working with your marketing team, you're working with your planning team, now you can actually be on the same page to say, okay, we actually know that Colby Jack cheese is a real trend, and it's not just one video that I saw on TikTok. I know it's a trend, and now we can predict for it and we can act on it.
So it's actually the opposite from a black box because it's creating the proof for the gut feeling that someone had. So if someone was seeing some indications, but they didn't have the proof for that, this is actually creating the proof from the data.
Yeah, exactly. That's such a good way to say it. Yes, that is perfect. Yeah. So it's like we do have gut sense, and a lot of planning, merchandising, and marketing, you still need to trust your gut instinct, but now you have some data to back it up.
Right. And to me, the magic there is how does it create those how does it know that this is growing and this is going to be a trend before it's maybe even a trend? Or maybe it's already a trend, we just don't know what it is, right? So maybe that's why people are thinking it's magic.
Yeah, it's like, well, how is it reading all of this stuff? But a lot of it is definitely like data processing, data engineering. Like that is the true magic of any AI model.
And this is probably the area of predictive analytics. So in AI, there is a lot of area where, people are talking about NLPs, Gen AI, but predictive analytics is a really great usage of AI to actually predict the future based on trends.
Yeah, I would say most of what we do, like a lot of what we do is traditional machine learning models. So we originally were calling it machine learning, but I mean AI, it's a big cluster now. But we do use generative AI as well, which helps our customers by summarizing all of the content of the post. So like we said, there's thousands of posts for different categories. So it'll actually summarize and say, hey, for deli, these are the types of posts, like people are posting these types of recipes or these types of inspirations, so that they at least get a summary, and then they can still see the videos themselves. But that is one way we're using pure AI as well.
I see. Okay. Does it also help them to generate new posts based on the trends of the words, or, the structure of what people are?
We don't have that in the current app, but we are building out pieces like that as well.
Amazing. So we already mentioned what the future is going to be like as well for
Granularity. Exactly. Yeah.
Perfect. Now, when you talked also about the grocers, about this specific example of the kids' food, this is a very niche in the grocers. So I can imagine this can go in many different directions. One of the challenges of founders and startups is to niche down. Sometimes they try to solve the problems for everyone. How were you able to niche down to that specific problem?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we have like modules for clothing and apparel as well. What we found is that grocery and food and beverage are able to move very quickly on trends. So whether that be like their merchandising side, their planning teams can move very fast. Their marketing teams move very quickly. So food and beverage, just the organizations themselves can pivot very fast and can intake a lot of information. So we found that we have targeted different industries, but food and beverage are just very cutting edge, very innovative, and excited to be able to solve this problem. The other thing we've seen with food and beverage is consumer demand is changing rapidly. So we going into it, we knew like clothing and apparel is impacted by trends, but also now food is heavily impacted by trends and like the consumer mindset. So if we think about like plant-based is a great example. Like you can actually see in the data, because we have a whole category around plant-based trends. And you can see, first of all, the category growing as a whole, but you can see specific terms like veganism or veganic, which is like vegan, organic. So all these like specific things. But I guess what I'm saying is that the consumer demand in food and beverage is impacted by trends and by these conversations that are happening across social media.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't ever a big shopper. My wife usually do the shopping at my home. But I could imagine how food and beverages or grocery in general is needs to be on top of things all the time, because there's so many products out there, and usually it's not the manufacturers that are selling directly, it's the grocers. So they are competing on shelf size and space and where it's going to be on the shelves and stuff like that, where apparel is probably more seasonal, and they're always looking for the next season and what will be like the colors of the seasons or the stuff like that, right? So I guess maybe that's where it's coming from.
Yeah, and they both have a challenge, but I think food and beverage right now in this quarter specifically, they're just seeing a lot of touch points from customers, and they just have a mandate to be able to move with consumer demand. And in Canada, if we take Canada as an example, there's also a lot of immigration, a lot of new people coming, and so you want to become the grocer of choice for anyone moving to Canada, and that requires having the right assortment that people are looking for, and not just following the trend, but talking about your assortment and your competitive advantage in a way that aligns with what consumers are looking for.
Right. Nice. Now, this is technology in MarTech or marketing tech, and marketing tech is probably quite saturated with technology out there. So when you got into starting this, what did you find out? Did you still have, there is still space for innovation in MarTech?
Yeah, I know we talked about this a little bit, but definitely going into it, we thought marketing already has like every solution that they need. So I'm a certified professional forecaster. I was doing a lot of demand forecasting. So we started on the demand forecasting side of the puzzle, but a lot of like forecasters were like, marketing needs this, marketing needs to know what products, and then marketing needs to tell us, as the planners, what products they want to focus on. And so then that's when we started talking more to marketing teams, and then more and more marketing teams started reaching out to us saying, hey, like, can you tell me trends in deli, or can you tell me trends for children's food? It was more of a demand pull, and that like marketers started asking us. And the challenge for marketers is that all their other platforms are more reactive. So there's no predictive ability to say like, here's what's actually growing, as opposed to just what's happening now.
Yeah, I see. Yeah. And when you went into that, you had to probably carve your unique value proposition, and there might be other people in the same space. What did you learn from that, creating, and what is your unique value proposition if you compare it to other products in the market?
Yeah, so we let our customers tell us what our unique value proposition is. So like I said, it's really three pieces. One is the predictive ability and using AI to predict trends as they're growing. Two is the cross-platform prediction. So being able to have one spot to tell you, this is what's trending on TikTok, this is what's trending on Instagram, this is what's trending across all of the platforms. So the cross-platform view. The last piece is the product level. So being able to get down to not just, we already know plant-based is important, but what products within plant-based, like vegan cheese, and how much of a percentage is that growing? So going down to the product level. Customers told us, it's a lot of just listening and understanding the pain points and letting them tell us what's important, and then making sure that we bring that to the forefront of our product roadmap. Based on what they said was important. We had a lot of the pieces, but then once they kept talking about, marketers were saying like, we need cross-platform, we actually created a view that told them exactly which platforms things were trending on. So we already had all those sources, but the way that we showed it now is very clear to say veganic, then it's on YouTube and Instagram, or if it's like vegan cheese, then that's on TikTok.
Yeah. And with the theme of our episode today, what did you learn from that shift from a service, building it for one client at a time, to the shift to a product that now you have, ideal clients, and you really want to sell it to more than one client at a time, but it's still one platform. It's not multiple platforms, right?
I think it's a lot of listening and understanding and noticing the connections between different clients. It becomes easier with time. I'd say it's so product is a lot more. You have to invest so much at the start, because you have to spend like, a significant amount of time researching. So we've talked to hundreds of marketers, planners, merchandisers in like 2 to 5 different industries as well. So it was a lot of lift at the start, versus service where you just start building, delivering, and you're already getting paid for that. But then it's really hard to scale that across others because you don't know what else is happening across the industry. So it's just a different model, I'd say. Not that we weren't still building at the start, we were constantly building, but you're not making as much money because you're not just building one solution for one client.
No, that's a great learning over there. I love that. Let's shift maybe a bit towards you as a founder and your founder journey in this process. You mentioned you come from data science. You're a certified forecaster, and now you're a founder of a startup, a technology startup. How was that journey for you to move from that background to, we talked in the past with other people that came from other backgrounds. I don't think we ever talked with a data scientist that moved into founding. So what was your process there and learning?
I would say doing management consulting, you're listening, you're processing, and you're constantly solving problems and building very impactful use cases. So you learn to understand the impact and the value case of everything that you're building. And I'd say in the startup, it's the same thing. So we have to really understand what we're doing is creating a value case. So let's say like 2 to 3% decrease in CPM or, 3 times more engagement. So really understanding the value case of everything that we're doing. And I'd say that is one thing that between like management consulting, we're building a startup, it really ties together well. But what I would say is different is that you're, like you talked about from a product standpoint, is you're really connecting the dots between so many different people in the industry. So you really need to take a much wider industry lens as opposed to honing in on one specific problem. But I think it's cool because you get that wider lens.
Sometimes that shift could be a bit hard because you need to have like you mentioned before, it's much more uplifting upfront and talking with a lot of people. And it's almost like holding back from developing something, right? So you need to have patience there to really understand the problem that will not be just for one client, but will be for shared between multiple clients.
It's exciting.
No, that's great, and that's really what is interesting. To learn from your experience. Did you learn things about yourself or like hard things that you have to learn as a founder that now you know and you would have done it differently?
There's probably thousands of little things that add up. Building a great product is the number one most important thing. There is some methodology that says, really interview people and understand the problem. And that is important. But I would say like you need to have a really good product, because as soon as we had a really good product and we started showing that our predictions were working and we were predicting, hundreds of different products, then it becomes a lot easier to have the next discussion or to be able to make the sale. So I would say having a really strong product is the number one most important thing, because that's ultimately what you're selling.
I can imagine the aha moments when you showed this to your clients, things that they were not able to do before, or they had a gut feeling but not the proof for it. That must have been very exciting.
Yeah, that is when it feels great, or when we publish something and then we see that it comes to fruition, whatever those predictions are. So, for example, a funny story that we have is that when we were starting, we did one of the predictions was about pink pants, and it was back in April that it was predicting pink pants and pink items in general, and it was still early. So yes, now in retrospect we can say it was Barbie, but back then what we did was we actually all bought pink pants on the team, and we had a few presentations and we all wore pink pants, and people were like, why are you wearing pink pants? It was a very strange thing. But then of course Barbie exploded, and then we had so many people messaging us being like, well, you saw the pink pants, or you saw the pink trend before it happened. And it was before people understood. It's so easy in retrospect to be like, obviously it was pink pants, but when you're actually in it in April, like you do look ridiculous. So that was a really cool moment to have so many people like messaging us after, being like, okay, you knew the pink pants. Can we start using your platform? Like, what else do you have on there? So that was just a funny one.
I love that story. And it's so, it's a simple story that also visualize with what you've done, like that magic of seeing the future. And that's really what marketers and trend forecasters want to see.
Yeah, and it wasn't that it wasn't existing yet. Like there was already some indication, but again, Barbie is a huge one. There's always these little ones as well, like high protein snacks or specific flavors of energy drinks. Yeah, people didn't know. So it's really cool to bring that out to people.
I want you to share with us in the future more stories like that, because that will be really cool to say, okay, we have this trend. No one has seen it yet, but after a month, we're like, oh, we told you so. That will be actually very cool to see. So please do share it with us. If you would have to give one tip for new founders, what will be that number one tip?
The only way to get into being a founder is to do it. So I would say like just keep going, keep doing it. Don't say if I had more experience or if I had more time. Just do it and keep doing it and keep iterating, and keep building on your product as well. So just keep going.
So Nike is not one of our sponsors or a sponsor, but just do it.
Yeah, we need to have a poster in the background.
Yeah, just do it. Amazing. No, this is very helpful for all of our listeners here because we have people that are in different stages of their founding journey, and many people, like we said, are coming from, they have a service, they've done it so many times manually or one at a time, and they really want to make it into something that will be more for everyone. So it's quite inspiring to see your journey.
Yeah. And again, it comes back to invest that time now to make something that can actually be used cross customers, because when you invest that time, it'll pay off later.
When I started as a developer, I always wanted to have my KPI for myself was how many people are using the codes that I wrote. So the more people are using the code that I wrote, the more productive I am. That was my productivity, not the number of lines, but the actual usage of that. So I always thought about how generic I can make the software, how generic I can make the product, so more people will be able to use it. And that's exactly the idea there, right? Because you want to build it once and have as many people come and use that. And therefore, it becomes more productive for your organization. So I think that's really the message there.
100% reusability. And then it's also the learnings that everyone collectively gets as well, right? Because the better the AI models are, for example, the better everyone can predict together. So I think you're benefiting that much more people in the industry.
These days, we can definitely add that. When I started as a developer, we didn't have any of those amazing AI models. Amazing. Thank you so much, Tali. People can reach out to you on LinkedIn. And one more thing that you would like to ask, the audience when they reach out to you, what would that be?
Yeah, I'd say for anyone in the food and beverage space, whether it's merchandising or marketing or anything in between, if you're in food and beverage and you want to see live trends for your space, feel free to reach out and we'll get you access to live trends.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Tali, for joining us today.
Thank you.
And thank you for our audience. Keep watching us for more episodes. Please comment, share, give us feedback. We want to know if you like our podcast and if you would like us to do anything better. We love having you here. Until next time, my name is Moshe, and I will see you next time. Take care.